Thank you so much for listening to The Museum at Tomorrow. If you'd like to support this work and learn more about how it was made, you can pledge your support at patreon.com/Nils Gardner. That's patreon.com/NILSGARDNER. You can also learn more at www.nilsgardner.com. Thank you and enjoy.
And I imagine that the experience of dying, it's always akin to me to that feeling where you're on a roller coaster, you've waited in line, the anticipation has built up, and you get locked into your seat, and you're going up that clack, 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 that chain is pulling you up that first hill, and as you crest that hill, there's this certain knowledge that you're not in control of the situation. All the decisions that you could have made that would have affected this outcome have been made already. You made them when you got in line, you made them when you sat down, and so you are just in for the duration of this ride, whatever it is. I have to imagine that the feeling is kind of like that. It's a thing that's big and unstoppable.
Incandescently happy. I just feel like I have this light bulb in my chest that just slowly gets brighter and brighter even when it just
the first thing that comes to mind is the picture of her that I have as my contact, actually.
Yeah, I think my favorite picture.
Which is a picture of a single lock of her hair in her ear. Just one of her curls falling down.
But there's a photo that's in her,
It's been late spring.
kind of in her kitchen area.
Late spring, and I was sleeping over it when we woke up that morning when the sun was coming into his garden apartment.
It's one that comes into my line of sight a lot.
He had,
as I kind of round a
just,
corner to get a cup of tea, or as I sit at the kitchen
so
table.
grateful
Like a
that I was
single
right there with him, and I
perfect
just
red
had this
and
picture
yellow
of him.
and
Just
gold curl that just sort of
so wonderful.
sets off the kind of pale cream of her ear, skin color, and it's beautiful.
I just don't look like me in pictures.
The first picture, she's wearing a backpack, t-shirt, waving at the camera, and her smile is so wide. We had gone camping together as children. We had gone camping together as children. We had gone camping together as children. She's looking directly at the camera again. I remember.
I guess I had always conceived of divorce and separation as a thing that sort of happens suddenly. Like you have a partner, you have a spouse, and then you don't.
We've just gone rock climbing at a gym in our hometown. We're sitting in a restaurant. She's resting her chin on 2 fists. She's looking to the side. Her hair is short. It's just been cut that way for the first time. Her expression is challenging.
I somewhere along the way, because some part of how my eating disorder works, really came to this whole belief that Jewish God was a God of rules and Jewish God didn't care about you at all. Like, Jewish God cared what you did. Your intentions, anything that was going on with you, that didn't matter as long as you did the mitzvah.
I worked
as long as
to
you did your
rise
obligation,
to
like you
meet
do what
her
you're supposed to
level.
do. And I remember saying that to one day when we were
What I
coming back
remember
from
most from that night, and
just
from
after we'd
all of
broken
the
up, and
early
like he asked me
nights
about
that
my
we spent
relationship with God,
together,
and I said Jewish God doesn't
what
care
I
about you.
remember
Jewish
most
God's a
from
God
that
of
night,
rules.
and from many of
And
the days we spent together in the
I
early
really,
times.
I continued to feel that way for
What I
a
remember
while.
most from that night,
Until
and
I
from many of the
started.
early days we spent together.
It's so cliched to say, until I actually started attending
I
a.
learned much
I still
later
attend a
that she
12-step
was hiding
meeting
an
for eating
abrasion
disorder
on her
recovery.
chin.
And that got me at least thinking a little bit about it. And it gave me
Took
kind of
the
a boost to
photo.
explore
What I remember most
Judaism
of
in a
the
different
photo,
way, or to
the
think like this is a
disposable
faith that feels
camera
important
from
to me, and I
many
know
of the
that the
nights.
cultural pieces feel so important to me, and ritual feels
It's
important
still
to me.
one of my favorite pictures.
But let's
ever.
really dig into like
Nights that we spent
what else
together.
is there beyond that,
What I
because I think
remember
I
most from that
still have
night,
some as like
from many of the days we spent
as
together in
having
the
some
early
pieces of
times.
agnosticism in myself. I
What
think sometimes I
remember
struggle
most
with that
from
idea of
night,
God, especially like the
many
problems
of
of evil,
those
bad things happen
days,
to good people.
What I remember most from that night, and from most of the nights when we first spent time together, was being absolutely unable to speak in her presence.
If anything, we had to kind of slow down because, you know, a great date, sometimes yes-anding happens too fast. Like, you finish a sentence and there's like 3 things that the other person wants to comment on in that sentence. In this case, it was like, what counts as a partner?
But
I
yeah,
have
we started dating
a really clear
when I
picture
was 13,
in
14, it was
college.
8th grade. And
We were
didn't date forever because I was 13 or 14.
in
but
an
we
alley
did it for a year,
of
year and a
red
half.
brick on either side of us that are dorms, and behind us is this
Like so
tall,
often,
Yeah.
she's holding a
green,
camera.
blooming bush.
She's got an
And she
incredibly
has
wide
light
smile.
blonde, what she would always call mousy hair, in bangs
She
and a
could
long
be-
ponytail, is wearing a dining hall shirt.
So we would go to.
And I'm wearing
My friend Tom's
another
parents
black
were a
shirt.
little less involved than
And
mine
it
were, and he
has
had a
full of
furnished
light bakery
basement.
on the front of it. except
And
for
he had a
inside.
girlfriend, and I had a girlfriend, and we would
And,
go play Magic the Gathering in
We're
the
just
basement.
holding each other, looking
which they did-
really happy and really
you know,
relaxed.
we never once took out a deck of cards.
There's
we
something
basically
really
would listen to
special
music
in a picture
and make
when
out.
you can tell that the people
that was
aren't
it.
really trying to
That was what
smile
dating meant.
something
We would go
funny,
on
it was
dates.
just
We would do
saying
group
it.
stuff,
It's not
teenager
like,
stuff. We go to the local
smile
there
on
was a
3,
local amusement
1, 2,
park,
3
which has since been
cheese.
bought
It's
out
just
by
like
Six Flags.
somebody just happened to catch.
We
them
shared our
being
first kiss at the
happy
top of the
together.
Ferris wheel, of course,
We aren't
right? Like you
particularly
do.
well posed, but we just look kind of.
And we
leaning
worked on
opposite
school
each
projects
other,
together.
kind
We
of
weren't in the same
counterbalance.
class. We had been in the 5th
And I
grade.
can see on my face
I developed
that
a
I'm
massive
really
crush on her at
relaxed.
that
I'm
point.
not trying to smile.
We were never in the same class again, but we did end up in the same
Really
enrichment program.
happy
So
and
for our
excited and
extracurricular stuff,
comfortable,
we were
which-
thrown on projects together, and that turned out to be
more rare than I wish it were.
just so bad for my work.
Early summer, bright sunlight.
She could be so
Just at the end of
cool at times.
my second year of college, her first year of college.
When she smiles,
Summer's
you
wide
know
open,
you
and
earned it.
we've only been dating a few months, and it's
I had no
bright sunlight.
like emotional tools for knowing how to draw lines or how to push back or how to say no. I just thought, like, if she said it, like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so that's what dating meant.
She so rarely smiled in pictures, it seemed.
See if any of them notice.
But every once in a while, I would see one that had that genuine, enormous grin. It stopped my heart.
I'm not sure if I can. One of my biggest personal challenges right now is feeling hopeful about the future.
And his reputation preceded him. I was acquainted with George before he ever moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and Las Vegas.
And the thing I craved the most was just a space I had total control over, a space I didn't have to share with other people, a space that was entirely private. I just wanted that level of control. And in the end, none of us have that. We lose loved ones, we eventually lose ourselves, and it's the roller coaster thing. You just sort of have to realize that this is not anything that you can affect.
I remember being in this service where traditionally you read the story of Jesus being crucified that night. You read the story of the death of God.
We are assembled here to pay our last tribute of respect to our departed comrade.
And the way my congregation did it was they read those scriptures.
When the call
They
of our
had
country came,
a circle of chairs. And every time they read one of those scriptures, they would do it in the center of the circle where candles were lit, and they would snuff one of those candles. So as the scriptures were read, you just saw the light going dark in front of you.
And then, oblivion for eternity is sort of the, like, in terms of an afterlife. I don't believe in one. I believe your body's chemicals get processed by detritivores, and unless you're cremated or embalmed, in which case it's a different decomposition process. But I just think we sort of surrender our atoms back to the universe, and
reach beyond that.
Chaos returns to what was briefly ordered.
What we absolutely cannot know, which is something that human beings do exceptionally
Almighty
well.
and merciful God,
If we think that that limit exists, we infer that there's nothing, and the answer. Like, I can't know it sometimes that part of yourself, so I can't know
the
that's
depth
the
of our sorrow,
actual inference
we
that
realize the truth
becomes attached to that is also the part of you that's most vulnerable. It's also the part of you that is hurt when they are in pain, that is ruptured if they die.
As comrade
That
parts,
exemplifies
we march
perfectly
on
that
with our ranks
connection is so deeply needed and so natural to us as breathing.
we beseech thee.
It's also the part that makes us get hurt.
All of us here, Son, and with thine own tenderness, console and comfort those we read by thy
One of the things that really came up for me when I was exploring God in a Jewish sense was that we in Judaism have so many different names for God. There's so many different ones. They all mean so many different things. And one of the names for God means the compassionate one or the loving one. And that really kind of rocked my world. And I realized that I didn't have to get caught up in like big G God who I have to somehow make explain why bad things happen to good people, or explain why the world is the way it is. That I can also have this kind of personal God or personal something out there that I feel is present with me.
So the whole perspective of life is the beginning, a middle, and an end. But for Christians, there is no end. The life
Love is the problem.
blessed,
Love is the complication.
Nevertheless, on this earth, we do have
Because if you don't give a shit, you don't get hurt per se. But it's also as important to human beings as breathing. Loving well and breathing well.
A reading from the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, beginning with the first verse. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down, a time to build up. A time to eat, a time to laugh. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time for hate. A time for war, and now especially for George and the family and friends, a time for peace. God's peace. The peace that passes all understanding. So you now turn with me to page in the prayer book, in the pew there. Red prayer book, 473.
And they would snuff one of those candles. So as the scriptures were read, you just saw the light going dark in front of you. And every time they did it, they would have someone light a candle on the outside of the circle and read one of the hopeful, full of hope scriptures in the Gospels to counterbalance that, to know that you were seeing the light go out in front of you, seeing the light of the world go out in front of you, and at the same time know that you were surrounded by it. It was a profound experience for me.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'd love to say, no, it's, I'm going to move past it. It's not the way that this works, I don't think.
There's a way in which it felt like waiting for a bus, where you're looking down the street and every single car or, light that you see looks like a bus. And so each time I saw someone who was like under 5'2", I would run toward them, like, oh no, okay, that's not them. And then I remember my brain just going into tailspin when I found her hat, because it was in a place that didn't really make sense. We should have found her by then. And if she had lost it, it meant that, it was her favorite hat. And so, if she lost it, it meant she was really badly off, or she had been, grabbed by someone and put in a van. And I know that happens so rarely. But it meant I switched from searching for her on the street to searching for places where her body could be. And that was really awful. It's the thing that keeps me up at night when she's out and I haven't heard from her, and I don't know where she is. But I'd always been able to dismiss it and say, no, that's not reasonable. I'm sure she's fine. I'm sure she's just having fun. And it was this confirmation of no, this really could be that.
like going to art museums with people because you can kind of wander at your own pace and sort of intersect like
Our
slowly
work-
bouncing balls around.
Qualia
Who's
are the
who's
subjective
not, to
experiences,
get to heaven, who's
sensual
not
experiences.
super
the
concerned
way that
with
you
the
perceive the color
afterlife.
blue, the sound of
What's
leaves crunching in the
life?
fall,
There
the
is
smell
this
of gas when
beyond
you pull
what
into
we
the
can
gas
see.
station. You know, these aren't all
Is an
pleasant
epistemological
experiences, but they are
do anything
all
to quell.
subjective and fascinating. And I think it's what you
What we
kind of
find
have to
here,
lean
what
into.
we
what
experience,
could
what we
have
Not
make
just the
together is
sensory
not
quality,
it's
but
in
also
what we can
the
know, it's within what we can share and what we can experience. So
Abstract
there's
abstract
nothing I
things
could have
that you
done
experience, right? You don't feel
in the
tactily,
first place.
emotions. You don't feel pride for your friend when they have an accomplishment. In
Even
one of
in
my
in a
favorite names
sensory way.
for God in the Christian tradition is Emmanuel,
nothing I could
which
have
means
done.
God with us.
And there's
You hear it every
really
year
nothing
at
I
Christmas.
can
But
do
you do
tradition.
experience
now,
that feeling,
several
and I think
days
staying in
later,
touch
when I
with
found
those
out days after.
is the best thing you can do with your time that you have here.
The Fable and Folly Network, where fiction producers flourish.